Welcome to Die Mad About It. It's a show where we tell Doug to fuck off and he, well, dies mad about it. We're your host, Brooke, aka the Truthful G, and I'm with
Amy, the president of WEMAD.
And this episode was supposed to be a discussion centering around white women's shitty behavior, but we actually have a couple of special guests coming on for a future episode on that topic. So today we're just going to discuss some really neat things our lawmakers have been up to this past week. So I'm not sure if you heard about this, Amy, but the House of Representatives in Missouri recently passed a vote initiated by Ann Kelly, a woman, 105 vote to 51, revolving around women's dress code. And women are now required to cover up all their sexy arms.
It's so sexy. You know, I think it has to do with hair and how much they actually really like it more than they're letting on. No, you know, what's amazing to me is how much they have tried to put a woman as the forefront of making this announcement on purpose. And this is what Republicans are so good at, is they'll find the one person that agrees with them that's in a minority group. Just like they will, you know, come up with, we're not racist, and then shove some person of color in front that has similar views to conservative Republican politics. It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah, gives me Herschel Walker, Clarence Thomas, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Boebert vibes.
100%.
No, it reminds me of like priority issues, okay? Because like dress code has always been a very triggering thing for me, because I remember growing up in the Midwest and you would get sent to the office for like the slightest infraction of dress code as a girl. And we had this rule where you're like, it had to be close to your knees and you had to be able to put your hands like this. And so when I see shit like this, or when anybody says anything to the kids at the schools now, like what, you couldn't enforce a fucking mask, but you can enforce a skirt. So I don't know, 100%. It gives me mad Handmaid's Tale vibes. And
absolutely, especially when we're dealing with grown women. It kills me when it's dealing with children. They always focus on girls' dress codes. You can see the boy dress codes are slim. There's probably 2 or 3 rules. You know, don't come in with no shirt on, and you got to wear shoes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the side of the boys' dress code. For girls, the list goes on and on and on. Short skirts, no tights, no tank tops, no, you know, and these are all because of the adult men that are in the classrooms as well as the children, but I'd say more so the adult staff. And you know what? It's the responsibility of them to be held accountable and not to stunt these children, because they're just kids. They just are wearing clothing. They're not even of that mindset, especially up to a certain age. They're just being themselves. And so when we start to do that, not only that, but then it goes beyond, and they start humiliating. So, you know, you're looking at teenagers that are going into school. There's already a lot of pressure on teenagers. They have a ton of hormones that they don't know what to do with. They're trying to navigate the world. They're already told by, you know, the numbers that girls are second-class citizens to boys. And so they show up in something they think is appropriate, and they are being pulled into the principal's office. It's being a big scene. They're pulled out of class. Then next thing you know, they're told to throw on a giant shirt that happens to be in a lost and found. I've heard this time and time again. Or some basketball shorts that were found in a lost and found. It's humiliating. It's humiliating. And it just continues to drag girls and women down until they come out as adults. And like you, they have this PTSD from these experiences that they had back in high school. It's absurd.
Like what you're saying, sorry, I've had my coffee this morning. I'm choking on some things over here. Choking on all these white men, idiot white men. No, what it tells me, because you and I were talking a little bit before the episode started about how I used to be a conservative, and that kind of a little bit is where it starts. That sort of, I can't do things that men can do. I am less than. I mean, what you just said, women being treated as second-class citizens, and then they get into that mindset, and as they grow up, what that tells them is, don't speak up, don't say anything, you know, stay quiet, stay little. And that's totally the opposite of what I teach my daughter. And so when I see stuff like this, I'm like, how in 2023, and they want to say it, the lawmaker who made this bill, she made it very clear. She's like, well, you would think that women who are in politics could be told to dress appropriately, but apparently they can't. She's coming at it at an angle of professionalism, less so like, oh, skin is showing, and more so like, oh, we are lawmakers. But I just feel like, did this need to happen?
Nope.
I don't think
it was never inappropriate. It was never inappropriate. the women that went up to speak against her said, I have a $1,700 suit I just purchased that I can't wear now. Tell me that's not business appropriate. It's a $1,700 suit. Because a forearm is showing, that shows me more that men have no control over themselves. And that's the issue, because this is not a business professionalism issue. And if, two people I brought this up to, and they said, well, the men are required to cover their arms. For one, I've seen men that are not covering their arms. And for two, in the House, if men are required to cover their arms, then they should also be required to wear skirts, right?
Yeah.
Let's just make it even. You can't say, well, men are, because men are not the standard to which women need to uphold themselves to.
No, absolutely not. And then there's like priority issues. Like, why is this your main priority, is covering up of arms? Or like in South Dakota, we had a lawmaker recently that wants to ban drag shows. So let me get this straight. We don't want to focus on AK-47s and school shootings. We don't want to focus on like the economic crisis. We don't want to focus on like, minority issues like the atrocities that happen out at the reservations. We're going to focus on drag shows. There was a video on TikTok you probably saw, and this woman was ranting and raving, respectfully and rightfully so, about how she's never been assaulted at a drag show, but she's been assaulted twice in a church. And so,
I'm friends with her. We're mutuals on TikTok. She's fantastic.
Oh my God, she's amazing.
Yeah. I should see if we could get her to come on here and talk to us too, because I think that would be a great conversation.
I would absolutely.
But you're absolutely right. There are so many other issues. I swear that when anyone brings up a stupid issue that has nothing to do with the people, politics was supposed to be about the people, and instead we've made this some sort of bitch fest where I'm going to come up with the dumbest ideas of things I think should be laws. It's moving into your next point here in a second, but it's such a waste of time that they need to throw all of them away, throw them all out, start all over.
It's a thing where it's less so in the interest of the American people. AOC talks about it actually.
Oh yeah.
More so they're just trying to keep their friends happy. It's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
And you saw that I went to jail. I think we've talked about that a couple times, but you saw that in the jail too, where it was like, and even when I worked, even when I was doing stuff with the Democratic Party this last round for the gubernatorial elections, like these people are making life-changing decisions for other people that are affected on down the line, and they're not even thinking about it at the top level. And it's disgusting, because that's like a violation against humanity.
Right. We're such a joke. I mean, what a laughing stock of a country that is supposed to have it together and be the place to be, and how we've shown our ass to other countries that are doing an amazing job, where the politics and the politicians are there more so for the people. I'm not saying all politicians aren't corrupt at some level or not, because there's money and power involved. And so as a human being, I think there are very few people out there that cannot be a victim to following the money or the power, unfortunately. But to find those genuine people in politics, I mean, look at the countries that have free universal health care, free university, and US is over here in debt, hoping they don't default, can't seem to figure out how to help people, but are really concerned with forearms showing in the House.
It's true. We're one of the last nations without any maternity leave. It's like us in some remote village or something like that is what I read. So no, and that can be rooted back to, colonialism. And speaking of colonialism, I don't know if you got a chance to look up this guy, Eric Murphy. Anyone at home, please Google Eric Murphy in North Dakota. You will not be sorry. It's giving the guy from, who was the evil dude in Ghostbusters? The evil white dude? Well, anyways, this guy looks like that. I'm telling you, it's Pilgrims on steroids over here. This is like your great grandpa. In North Dakota, Republican candidate Eric Murphy was accused and cleared of sexual harassment, and since introduced a bill, House Bill 1256, which would make it a Class C felony. Now, for anybody who isn't familiar with jail, that's 5 years in prison, okay, and a $10,000 fine. Like, that's mid-grade felony. It's pretty bad to falsely report sexual harassment. And since women clearly aren't believed as it is, that should go exactly as he intends it to.
Right.
I mean, who's gonna report somebody now? Because it's my understanding, like, one of his campaign officials reported him or something. And sure,
that's the hope. That's the hope. Such a small percentage are falsely reported for some sort of vendetta, and it's so rare. As much as men want to say, well, the whole Me Too thing, and now I'm scared, I can't even touch a woman. It's like, nobody wanted you to touch them in the first place. So go touch men.
The statistics alone is like, it's funny how we have all these women claiming they've been raped, but no men are admitting that they're rapists.
Apparently so many women have been raped, but there are no rapists. Apparently there's none.
It's a
So, and what happens if
mystery.
all the men that actually do get off, that are guilty, which happens time and time again, what all of a sudden now she gets, the scarlet letter because she falsely accused, even though she was telling her truth and was not believed? I mean, how are they going to
Yeah.
handle all of those cases? And that's almost worse than what an actual rapist gets when they're busted
Yeah.
for rape.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, class C, that's mid grade because there's, A would be your beginning one. I don't know. In South Dakota, we do numbers, so I don't know what they're doing out there in North Dakota, I guess. But that is a higher felony than you'd get for like a burglary, an assault. Um, yeah, I mean, it's extreme. It's extreme. We even had a lawmaker out here in my hometown that was wanting to make it so women couldn't file divorce unless they could prove domestic battery. And
Which is
that's hella red
impossible to
flags.
fucking prove. Here's
That's
pictures of
crazy.
bruises, bleeding. I've been to the hospital. You can do everything, and these women are never believed.
It's true. You could, like, a man could smack a woman right in front of another man and be like, well, what is she wearing? Or some stupid shit. They would
Oh, it
find
always
a way
comes,
to get
yeah.
off
What did
on a
she do to deserve
technicality.
that? That's always
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, so I mean, so far this law has only been introduced. I can't see where anything has been passed or anything, but just the fact that it exists, like the Missouri thing, oh, it's just very, all it's going to do is it's just going to discourage more women. I personally have gone through that. Perhaps you have too, of reporting something, and then all that happened is, I mean, that's the trend. You report it, and then you often, they even say it statistically, and like lawyers of victims will tell you that, court systems, that
Yeah.
oftentimes the victim is re-victimized.
Well,
And
exactly, and
so,
humiliated in public. So then you're having
yeah,
to retell your story. You have to relive your experience. You have to then tell a bunch of other people that are judging you, literally.
yeah. I mean, Brene Brown, I don't know if you listen to her, she talks a lot about shame, but this is a situation where shame is used to control women, like the Missouri thing with the dress code. And you were talking about the girls putting on a t shirt, shame, to embarrass and manipulate and control.
Yeah.
And then this again, with the reporting of something that probably happened to you, is shame and embarrassment, manipulation and control. And that goes back to the travesty that is our lawmakers not looking out for its citizens, in this case being women.
Right. It's all right in front of us, and it's
Yeah.
happening every single day.
Well, my friend last night, she was like, she texted me, she's like, "Do you hear about what's going on with George Soros?" Who's our next topic of conversation. And, and she's like, "Did you see he has ties with like Russian oligarchs and stuff?" Like, she's like, "Can you believe this? And he's in Congress." And I said, "I can't believe that we almost had our entire government overthrown by one individual in a day, and he's still walking around free. I can't believe that Roe v. Wade got overturned."
Any of
You
this
know?
shit. I can't believe any of this shit. Half the time I have to pare it down because it becomes so broad of all the collective things that are happening to target women specifically. And then you go just to a small level and you're like in social media accounts and you've got all these little fucking white dudes saying, well, what, we're better than women anyway. And then I just heard Akon doing this speech. No, it was 4 men sitting around. Akon was one of them. And he was sitting there. This is kind of unrelated, but it just pissed me off.
No, it's okay.
He
Akon's
was
kind of a sexist, I believe.
He's 100% a sexist, and I used to
Yeah.
love him. He was sitting on a couch. Don't give fucking men microphones. Unfortunately, these 4 had microphones,
Oh
and
my
he went on this
God.
whole spiel about how men don't need women. Men are the kings. Women are second-class citizens, and men, this is what he said: men could have babies without women. They could just, he said, he could put his sperm away somewhere, and in 9 months there would be a baby. Quote unquote. I'm not even kidding you.
I mean, let him try it.
Honestly, could all the men just do that? Fuck off.
Go
Go put your sperm somewhere
in a
and leave it
jar.
alone.
Just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone. You want babies so bad, just leave your sperm. Akon said so, and he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
So.
Well, drugs are bad. And Kanye knows, Akon knows,
Oh, yeah, Kanye knows.
Andrew Tate knows.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
don't do. Oh, Andrew Tate.
Oh,
Let's just take a moment of silence for him.
I think he's really learned about the meaning of consent since being in jail, I'm pretty sure.
People are still coming to I'm telling you, they will believe anything. I thought the
Anything.
Trump ones were bad. holy shit, the Andrew Tate ones are worse. And I
Yeah.
don't know how or why, but somehow he found a way to make them worse.
Yeah.
All his little Joe Rogans just, yes, sir, yes. They'll believe anything that he says. Like they really believe that he's out and he's the king. It's truly terrifying. And luckily, it's just like a small, minority of them. It's not like the masses or anything. Like the majority of men are like, no, that guy sucks. But there's still too many of them that are like,
Too
no,
many.
that guy is the shit. That's concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's mostly because they just want to be that. They want to have money and power and be able to say whatever they want, and everyone believes them. And he constantly has to talk about his cars and Bugattis, but the problem is the other stuff that's seeping in through osmosis is the shit he's saying about girls, because he never seems to be able to use the word women, and girls are stupid and girls are lazy, and these things are being said over and over and over and over. And so it's kind of brainwashing, I would say, to be honest with you. If you listen to something long enough,
Yeah,
you
they
start
are
to think it.
brainwashed. It's easy to brainwash the ignorant, unfortunately.
Yeah, and there's way too many of them.
There's way too many. Not everybody can be a doctor, not everybody can be a lawyer. It makes the world go round as a few dummies, I suppose. Or what
Gives
makes
us
the
something to
world
talk
end.
about. Yeah. Yeah, or that too.
And you'll be happy-go-lucky the whole time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the world's fine. Look at it burning around us. Okay,
what am I going to do about it?
Well, that's just it.
Cool. Well, that's our show. Join us next time when we will have a couple of special guests. I'm not going to name them yet because a week is a long time away, but I'm hopeful that everything will come together as it usually does on our podcast. And we're going to discuss white women's behaviors, why they vote the way they vote, and hopefully help some people at home understand why white women are crazy. That's our show. We'll see you next time. And remember, Doug, women don't owe you shit.